I think that this announcement that we got earlier this week is a huge offseason win for Georgia, and it's one that obviously pertains to this coming football season. They announced some kickoff times for Georgia's schedule. 5 games were announced, all of them being at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. But the one I'm talking about in particular that I think is a win for the Dogs is when they go up to Knoxville to play Tennessee. That game's going to be at 3:30. It will not be a night game. Look, it's kind of hard to describe. Well, first, hard to describe. These SEC and other big-time college football environments are unique and they're special and they're loud and they're chaotic. And you get a different feeling at those types of games, at those big-time stadiums, at games between big-time programs. And when that is at night, that gets multiplied a little bit. These night games have a different vibe to them. And I've been to night games at a handful of big-time places now, and these environments are hostile. So I think Georgia avoiding a night road game at one of the toughest places to play in college football, in Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee, in what will probably be a ranked matchup. Now, we're going to talk about Tennessee, but this is going to be one of Georgia's toughest games of the season. A season that's full of tough games, a season that's a little bit more doable, I think, than a year ago when you consider the fact that the home and the road schedules have been flipped around. But still, to me, this is a huge win for Georgia. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. Let's get into the details and start looking at these teams as well. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. I ask you to check out dawgpost.com, where you'll find our written content. You'll find more insider stuff. You'll just find more than what you'll find here. You find a lot here, you find a lot there. But go check it all out, dawgpost.com. It's important to me that you go and do that. And other links are in the description of this video down below. So, when you take a look at Georgia's schedule this year, they're going to open with Marshall at 3:30. Then the next week, they're going to have Austin, PA. That'll also be at 3:30. So they've got kind of a couple of warm-up games heading into this season. And I think that's really, really important because you've got new starting quarterback in Gunnar Stockton. You got a lot of new and transition for both sides of the team, really. When you think about, okay, they brought in some transfer portal guys. How are they going to mesh in Georgia's offense? Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, Josh McCray. There's new for Gunnar Stockton, right? And he's been in 2 very hostile environments, a neutral site Sugar Bowl game where they lost and a neutral site SEC championship game where they won, and he's thrown into the wolves, thrown into the fire. But then week 3 at Tennessee, that's going to be the first true road game that he starts. Now, this is assuming Gunnar Stockton's the starter. Now, look, if it's Ryan Puglisi somehow or if something happens, the sentiment is the same. It would be the first true road start for him. It would be the first hostile environment type of start. At least Gunnar has dealt with those types of situations and, high stress situations, not just a normal football game. But that game against Tennessee in week 3, it's early on. You're getting a big SEC road game out of the way. Neyland Stadium is huge, right? It's one of the highest capacity stadiums in the country. It's got a gorgeous view. I get to go up to wherever I want in it, really. I go all over the stadium, but when you go up to the very top, it's gorgeous. The 3:30 kickoff time, it's going to be nice out. It'll turn into a darker game as it goes on, but look, those night games are different, and you see that on TV. If you've been to SEC night games, you know that it's different. I think about environments at Georgia at night that have been different. I think about Notre Dame in 2019. That is one of the loudest, most hostile environments that I have been to in any college football setting. Was that game at night against Notre Dame. I think about at Alabama, Georgia at Alabama last season. Hostile environment. I have not been to Tennessee. What time was the kickoff in 2021? I'm blanking on what time the kickoff was in 2021. I know it was at least dark towards the end of it, but I'm blanking on that. But I know for a fact that the game in 2023 in Knoxville that I went to, that was a 3:30 kick, and that's a really loud place. But I can't imagine how much louder, how much more intimidating it would have been being at night. And think about it this way: if you're doesn't even just have to be an athlete, right? Think about it this way for Gunnar Stockton. I'll give you a quick metaphor that just popped in my head, and I'm going to take it and run with it. You got a first date coming up. It's kind of long distance, and it's semi-long distance. Say it's like an hour drive. You got to go to her, and you got to wait all day, and you're thinking about it all day, and you're super nervous. 3:30, that cuts out like 4 hours of the thinking and worrying about it on that day. That's another aspect of night games. You're waiting all day. I've got to work these games. You're waiting all day. But I've been to Texas at night, right? That was an environment where people threw trash when they didn't get what they wanted with officiating. And that's been known to happen in Tennessee games. So I do think this was a huge win for Georgia. Now, looking at the matchup a little bit more, I don't really know what to make of Tennessee. I was already a little bit lower on the Vols than the general public, and then they lose their former 5-star quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, to money and to drama, and he goes to UCLA. App State transfer, Joey Aguilar, who just transferred to UCLA, hadn't played there yet, he goes to Tennessee. They basically swapped quarterbacks. Joey Aguilar, good on the college football video game. I had it App State Dynasty. But not a great season for the Mountaineers. They lose 6 games. They go 6-6 last season. He throws for 56% completion percentage, 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, several multiple interception games, one of them being 4, several multi-sack games. Not a great season for App State. He doesn't have a great season. He's a senior. All right, he's got good size, 6'3", 220. But I watched App State a couple times last year, and it wasn't great. And that's not all on Aguilar, but now he's expected to be Tennessee's starting quarterback. And to me, he is a step down from what I would consider to be a little bit overrated Nico Iamaleava. Super talented arm, but I don't think he always knew exactly what to do with that. But I think that there are question marks on this offense. The heartbeat of their offense last year was running back Dylan Sampson. He was the most productive running back in the SEC. He ends up being a middle-round pick in the NFL draft to the Cleveland Browns. He had over 20 touchdowns, and he was a big part of their offense. He was the only really good thing for them on offense, for the most part, when they went to Athens and played Georgia last year. They lose a couple of their best defensive players. They lose one of their best wide receivers. Now, all these teams are going through transition. Georgia's not without their transition and their defense. But Georgia's answered a lot of those questions. I don't think Tennessee has answered them. And I don't know that Joey Aguilar exactly answers the question that they have at quarterback. When you think about Georgia and Tennessee recently in these matchups, and specifically in Knoxville, this decade, Georgia's been not just this decade, this century, Georgia's been very successful up there. So, like I said, avoiding a night game, I think, really important. But since 2000, we'll just go through it by the year. I know the last time Georgia lost to them was in 2015 up there, right? Georgia obviously lost to Tennessee in 2016, but the last time they lost in Knoxville was in 2015. That was the day that Nick Chubb suffered a major knee injury. But let's count it up. Since 2000, 01, Georgia beat them. 03, Georgia beat them. 05, Georgia beat them up there. 07, Tennessee wins. 09, Tennessee wins. 11, Georgia beat them. 13, Georgia beat them. 15, Tennessee wins. And then that's the last time. 17, 19, 21, 23. Georgia has beaten Tennessee up in their home stadium. I predict that that's going to happen again this season. And I think avoiding a night road game in the conference is a win that you can definitely be happy about as a Georgia football program in the off season. The other games that were announced, like I said, they're all 3:30. 3:30 kicks to kick off their season in the first 3 weeks. 3:30 against Florida and Jacksonville, as that always is. That's traditionally played at 3:30. They don't often deviate from that. And then the Black Friday game against Georgia Tech, obviously they played a Black Friday night in Sanford Stadium, another great environment. But this time it's going to be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it's going to be at 3:30 on Black Friday. So that is a switch up from last year, and just in general for that rivalry. But Tennessee, it's at 3:30. I think Georgia probably wins that game, and I think that this is a little bit of the reason why. Appreciate you watching.